I am waiting for us to pop up on YouTube.
Ah.
Where now?
Pop into the settings.
Yep, no, we're definitely there. It's up.
Is it up on?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, cool. Apparently my phone just is like, no, I don't want to watch you.
You know, this is how we start every episode.
Yeah, pretty much.
We at least need an intro so it can bleed into us just doing this.
We probably should, and then just tap the intro. We can roll.
Yeah, let's do that OBS first.
What? Actually, OBS, I think so far has been the best experience across the board.
Yeah, best of a donkey.
But you repeat yourself.
Yeah, but I keep trying new stuff and it doesn't work. You're you're not talking. Okay, cool.
I'm not. I can if you want me to.
Yeah, do that just so we can make sure that you're in
I
there.
can hear me.
Okay, cool.
Anyway.
I can make it go wonky if I turn the volume up on that thing.
Oh, okay. Are you gonna transition you so you're actually on the screen, or are you
No.
gonna? Oh, okay.
I can't even find Faith Dad, so there's that.
It's not. It's under me now. It's under just
that better?
Justin Donner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I changed that up a little bit. Man, all right. So I hate technology and I love technology at the same time.
I feel like we're starting this like people start their Instagram lives where they just sit there and wait for people to come on and just stare at the camera awkwardly for like 2 minutes.
Sometimes
waiting
that's
for
the
count to
thing.
Come up.
We just like to mess things up
Yes.
and then start
And then have
37
no
minutes
idea
late.
whether we're actually going or not.
Right.
Welcome.
Welcome to Shut Up, Justin.
Yes. Shut up, Justin.
It's been a fun week. But anyway.
The universe always provides topics.
Oh yeah, it's great fun. Great fun.
In this
So-
episode, it's a very Catholic episode.
Oh, it really is.
2 out of 3.
It
The
really is.
Catholics
What was our,
got
what's
2
our
out
third?
of 3 on this
Oh,
one.
well, I'm not going to ask that. I'll let you guys
Which one?
bring it up. Well, I can't remember what the third one is right now.
I don't remember what the third one is either.
I don't think we have a third one.
I think we might just have two.
I
and
suggested
then
a third one. Well, 2 is probably enough for us anyway.
for
But
this
I
one. yeah.
suggested a third one, but I actually don't want to roll with it. I need to do a little bit better research
Oh, okay.
on
okay.
what is the difference between an atheist and an evangelical.
Oh, right.
But there's some
Yeah.
interesting data that I ran across, and I can't find it again. There was an interesting Pew Research report that I want to be able to
I
cite.
have been having a heck of a time finding source information recently for stuff. Like there's a thing out in the political sphere that independents and Republicans overlap in like 90% of their issue interests, as including priority. Can't find the source data for it anywhere.
Yeah, and this one I actually saw it, so I'm going back through the old stuff that I've done.
Yep.
But it turns out I occasionally do a thing on social media. So
Occasionally.
scrolling back to find,
You and I sent 30 messages back and forth.
Yeah.
Today. Like,
so going back to find that has been a challenge, and it might be 2 hours of research just to find the thread that started all of that. So
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Let's kick this thing off and actually get into it.
Gonna
Mott,
do
you
it?
want to pray today?
no.
but you haven't before.
It's your turn.
It's time for you.
What are we doing? Is that a thing that we've honestly done?
It is
Yeah,
a thing
every
we've
time.
honestly done. And
Father God, show up. Amen. What do you want me to do?
Say
Hey, I'm down with that.
Justin battled the forces of darkness for us,
Yeah.
and we're ready to go.
All right.
Well, don't make it weird from what I did. All right, we've got 2. You want to start on the actually it's the speech from the
We can start on the speech.
you pick.
Harrison Berkey or Durkee or whatever his name is.
But-
No.
Butker.
But
Yeah,
Butker, I
Butker.
think, is the
Yeah,
right
Harrison
way
It's a
to.
Harrison
great
is his first
name
name.
for a football kicker.
Sure, Butker.
Yeah.
Butt kicker.
Apparently a very good one. I don't watch NFL anymore. I don't really
Uh,
care. I watch
well-
the Super Bowl and I eat chicken wings, but
What's
that's about
neat
it.
is that you can assault your wife, beat her, and not get condemned. But if you say, I like that my wife has no regrets about being a homemaker,
Oh, then it's
Yeah.
on.
admonished
Like
by
Donkey
the
Kong.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That is a very good point.
Sorry, I'm trying to monitor the chats. and-
I have a whole lot of what's in, what's out, with the church in general, but we'll stick with football since that's the subject.
Well, I mean, you want to give the highlights of what we're talking about, just in case people don't have a clue?
Yeah, so dude gave a commencement speech. A Catholic man gave a speech in which he promoted Catholic values at a Catholic college where he was invited to speak by a Catholic priest who runs said college, and people were pissed that he said Catholic things.
So Harrison Butker, Kansas City Chiefs kicker. So, just won a Super Bowl. Taylor Swift
Apparently
fame.
a very, very good kicker.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't miss much this past
Yeah.
Super Bowl. So, hey, Tammy. It's my sister Tammy is chatting in. She's on Facebook, not YouTube.
Can't have her.
Are you watching? You're going to watch the YouTube stream?
I'm monitoring for chats.
Sweet.
So if you want to chat, YouTube's your place.
I will
Or
chat.
Facebook, because I'm watching Facebook.
Oh.
He did a speech where he talked about a number of different, like you said, Catholic-y topics.
Mhm.
Kind of railed on the state of the world, the state of
The Catholic Church.
the Catholic Church, and then
Really got into traditional Latin Mass.
yeah,
Like spent a fair amount of time on traditional Latin Mass, which is, I think, really important when you're graduating school.
maybe from Catholic college.
A conservative Catholic college, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they are what they are.
Yeah.
So.
So you wanted to bring up, you brought this topic.
Well, it's
so
been
what
a hot
are
topic.
you thinking?
It's been a hot topic. So I will read the money shot that nobody really, I mean, a few people thought it was interesting that he brought up the whole traditional Latin Mass, which I don't understand why you would, I mean, he's got this nostalgia thing around it, but I'm like,
Well,
nobody
that's the Catholic
understands what
Church for
you're
you.
saying. So, and that's fine. I guess that's his jam. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all you've achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly. I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you.
We need to
How
use that
many
word
of you? What?
more. Sorry, we need to use that word more.
Diabolical lies. Diabolical. I'm just using it more now. Diabolical lies told to you. How many of you sitting here now, about to cross the stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you're going to get in your career? And then he goes on to say, basically, that your highest purpose is to have babies and make a home, and you're not going to be happy in your career. You're only going to be happy making babies and making a home. Then I don't think there's anything in this where he says anything different than that. I'm looking through this.
He pretty much just said your highest purpose is to create people and to raise them. That was the gist.
Yeah, which isn't honestly as traditional as the traditional Latin Mass for the Catholics.
And let us not forget that that's how we make people.
Yes.
Kind of important.
Do you have to be a homemaker to make people?
I don't think it's hurtful.
Do you have to only be a homemaker to make people?
No,
Because
I don't think
he's promoting that really, really hard.
Yeah, no, I think that that's okay to do if that's what you feel. Like, go nuts. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it.
Yeah.
But he also railed against birth control and IVF, which I am absolutely not for. Let me rephrase. I am for the use of IVF. If someone wants to have kids, I know some wonderful parents that had a child via IVF, and they deserved to be parents, and they had the means to do that, and they have a happy, healthy little girl that they take great care of. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I'm not Catholic. So, I don't think it matters.
I don't think most Catholics think it matters either, to be honest. That they kind of choose their own positions. And then,
So I have recently developed a little bit different take on that, on IVF.
Oh.
So
this is not the direction I was expecting this to go in, but
sure.
dive in.
So, and it came up because of it's an abortion law in another state that basically makes, if you improperly dispose of an IVF, of a fertilized embryo, it is considered an abortion, and they're prosecuted for it.
Because they consider that.
So,
Yeah.
and this is the challenge, and I don't I'm going to preface this with I don't have an answer for this. But to be theologically and principally consistent, when does life begin?
I know where my line is.
Well, when does life begin?
I know where my line is.
What's that?
Because there's no theological way to say when life begins.
What is that?
Implantation of a zygote into the uterine wall.
Okay. What's your thought on when life begins?
I think I was muted. Probably the same. I don't.
So implantation.
Would be my.
So
Something
conception
like
would be
when it
defined
will-
as implantation plus insemination,
Right.
fertilized
Well, the
egg.
implantation is post insemination.
Right.
So
It's insemination.
The
is
zygote's
a
floating
thing.
around and it implants into the uterine wall, and then it starts growing. And most of them get flushed.
Yep. So the question that if that is, then you're logically consistent, or it would be logically consistent to say that it isn't an issue to have a unfertilized egg that's disposed, or a fertilized egg that's disposed of.
Yeah,
The
wouldn't-
challenge that I have is if if conception is fertilization,
Okay.
which there's a pretty significant case to be made there because you have to artificially stop the growth like you have to freeze the egg to stop it from growing anymore, or to try to grow once it's been fertilized. That creates an interesting problem with calling conception the implantation and not the fertilization. Because it doesn't have, because an egg doesn't, to grow, an egg doesn't have to implant in the uterine wall.
So let's follow your logic. It
Mhm.
actually does. It has
No, it
to-
doesn't. You can get it in the fallopian tubes. That's a problematic pregnancy.
That's an instant abortion. You have to do that to save.
It
Yeah.
doesn't always necessarily to.
It's not always a miscarriage. It's not always an abortion. It can grow, which is the point.
So I'm gonna put a fairly large, I think, not necessarily a logic hole, but I think something you haven't thought of is that most fertilized eggs don't implant. So you have to not have sex if you want to avoid wasting a fertilized egg.
Okay, go through that.
Most fertilized eggs don't implant. You have to
Gotcha.
stop having sex if you want to avoid wasting a fertilized egg. It isn't. It's obviously the odds are different when you're having natural copulation as opposed to artificial insemination, but
Let's
it's still the same thing.
hol-
It's just a
hold on.
generational of the same principle.
So, okay, that is something that is usually forgotten in that.
Yeah, if you're trying to
Item.
avoid that situation and you're going to be a purist about it, how purist are you going to be? You're going to just not, and then you don't have babies anymore because you're not even trying.
No, the thing that I'm just considering is if it's the fertilization, is it fertilization or implantation? Because that's the line that makes
Well, it's
that makes or
it's
break.
kinda-
Honestly, that makes or breaks IVF, because if it's
for certain ethical standards, yes. So
that's interesting.
yeah, and there may be people who draw the line a little bit further than that. That's the one that seems to make the most sense to me. But I'm not a professional in anything having to do with making babies, other than other than the fun part. But you
Okay.
know what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
not- I don't know
So
anything
in
about
that, I mean, when
gynecology
you're talking about,
or
so then in that
general.
case, if it's possible for the body to not implant a fertilized egg,
more common than not.
and that is more common than not,
Yeah.
then that it would follow that IVF is the same concept, just put lab assisted.
And it's
Then no issue.
and miscarriages in the first 6 weeks are common enough that we really understand how often they were happening until we got better.
Yeah, no,
Pregnancy
that
tests.
no, that makes sense, and I would never argue that a miscarriage is anything other than a
Yeah,
miscarriage.
I'm
so-
just saying
but
that the child making process is fraught with danger for quite a while, and just
yeah,
the odds are
but no,
against you.
the difference though is that when you're dealing with IVF, it's not dangerous for the fertilized egg; it's premeditated.
Does the fertilized egg have a soul?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Actually.
And I don't know how we solve that theologically. You just have to draw a line and say that it does or doesn't.
Well,
based on
I think the line. I think you're right with the line. I just don't think miscarriage is a good argument to support that line, because miscarriage isn't it's something that we can control, and a fertilized egg getting thrown out is not a miscarriage. It's a
right. But if we're just trying to
attempting to find the line. It does
make
make
life
sense.
less dangerous for embryos.
It's not even about that. It's what's life.
Yeah.
It's what is the definition. If a body miscarries, a body miscarries. That's in God's hands, not ours. That's outside of the realm of something that we can control. When it's inside of the realm of something
If a
that
body
we can
gets
control,
cancer, a body gets cancer, and that's in God's hands. It's
I mean,
outside of
we can
whatever we can
we can
control.
attempt to fix it.
So
No,
okay.
but we can attempt to fix it.
So, but we're asking whether science can intervene in this process.
No, that's not the question. It's where can they intervene, not if they can. Because just because we can do something doesn't mean we should,
Okay.
right?
I mean, we're talking about that in lines of gene splicing right now. So,
Should we be messing with people's genes? Well, probably not. It's probably not a great idea.
just because you can, well, or can you and avoid a lot of suffering?
Maybe. Or do we introduce more suffering?
Yeah, you don't know.
Like-
Because all that passes on.
Or do you end up in a prison in China?
Or that. That's amusing.
The Chinese draw the line somewhere.
Apparently at gene splicing.
Gene splicing.
No,
without
so
a
but
license anyway.
I think the point of not all when it comes to the disposal of fertilized eggs after they've been used or not used because of procedures not being done.
Or the procedure is done, but
And
they
it's not
made
necess-
200 of them.
Yeah, and they don't need them anymore.
they don't need them
That I think the fact that the body naturally doesn't implant every egg that gets fertilized is a argument for IVF is just a man-copied similar process to what the body does naturally.
In emulation.
It's an emulation of what the body does already. It gets something implanted and then doesn't implant others, and that's an acceptable line, I think, for IVF. So that makes more sense. But that is an interesting question. Anyway, back to the rest of your fun. Tangent number 1.
Diabolical lie.
So
Or we could discuss.
Oh
traditional
no.
Latin Mass.
So I like that one. So I personally have no issue with his speech, none whatsoever. The audience was correct. He knew who he was talking to. It's traditional Catholic ideals.
Do you think it's biblically correct?
I think it's more biblically correct than it's wrong
How so?
because
Man, I got a long list of women who do not fit his definition.
that's fair, and it's not necessarily accurate for everybody. And I think he did call that out. I think he said at the beginning of that diatribe that if that's you, if you want to be in the workplace, that's fine. Good for you.
He talked
But-
about vocation a lot. And I
Yeah.
think that's the qualifier.
Yeah, I think his intent was to say, but that is not what you have to do. That is not required of you, and shouldn't be.
What isn't required? Vocation or
Being
a homemaker?
being a careerist is not something that should be required of you, because being a homemaker for in some family structures, I think it used to be most family structures, the homemaker had the most important job because it was more than just tending the kids.
Well, I think more of what happened with the homemaker was that technology made it so easy that all the women were bored. So Mother's Little Helper and the alcoholism in the 50s got pretty extraordinary after like vacuums and refrigerators, cleaner heating appliances, different things like that.
Can you clarify that for me? Are you saying that mothers are bored? Do you think mothers are bored?
No, I think that not mothers of young children, but as it gets older, taking care of the home, previous to the technology that we have now, was a whole different thing.
What technology are you referring to?
There's
Vacuum
quite a
cleaners
few
and
of them.
cooking appliances and
Yeah, not throwing twigs in a wood burning stove, and hand mixing your biscuits after you grind your flour, after you make the butter, after you know, so on and so forth. Having a refrigerator to store stuff for a couple of weeks, so you don't have to make everything fresh every day. Meat that comes from a supermarket, vegetables that come from a supermarket. It just, you know, people go back and they do the homesteading thing, and I think even, and we have quite a bit of technology that helps with that today too, but it's a lot more work. It's just you don't have the opportunity to do a whole lot more at that point. That's the argument. I'm not saying that housewives are bored,
That's a solid argument.
but it happened in the 50s. The housewives got bored.
I just don't know a lot of moms that are bored. Like,
I don't know any.
there's one upstairs that I think would disagree with you.
Well, young kid. He qualified that with young kids, not
Yeah.
young kids.
You get them
But-
about school age, and I think my mom, she went out and got a job when we were older teenagers. I think she would have been a lot happier if she would have done it when we were a lot younger.
I'm gonna.
It
I'm
just
gonna.
didn't occur to her to do so.
I
She
don't
didn't even
know.
need the money. She just went and got a job.
I don't know a mother of more than one kid right now, where their kids are teens, who, if they didn't have to work, would.
So I think we should qualify this with this is a bunch of dicks talking about women. So
I don't think we need to qualify that, but sure, if you want to.
so we did. And we
No,
don't,
I'm
and we
saying
don't have
no.
that.
What I am
we're
saying is
making judgment
the
calls on what women think.
I'm not saying. I'm
But I'll
saying
give
the
you that.
ones that I know, that I have talked to, that I am friends with, or that my wife is friends with. None of them would work if they didn't have to. None of them.
Yeah, volunteer.
They would do stuff
They wouldn't-
along those lines.
They wouldn't not contribute to things. but
Right.
It wouldn't be
They're
a
not staying home.
compulsory
Yeah.
for a paycheck thing that they would do. Which I think if you proffered that to a lot of people, you'd get that back.
I was gonna say I'm not sure that if I won the lottery tomorrow, I wouldn't necessarily go back to work for money again either.
It's not. No.
I'd
It's.
find something to do.
I'm talking about careers.
I
Anybody who gets a bunch of money might go into philanthropy and do that.
But now we're talking about a woman who's has a husband who's working, and that's why she cannot work. So I'm talking about men who would have the money to not work. Would they choose to go to work anyway?
I'm pretty sure that they. Well, I know for a fact that they should work. The work might change, but they should work.
Okay, but I don't think it's specific to women.
I think it's different because of if there are children in the home. You take children out of the home, it's a whole different ballgame. I don't think that it's even a conversation. There's
And
nothing.
this is definitely around children.
There's no conversation to be had. But if there are children involved, if children are still inside the home, that's where I don't know a mother. I personally do not know somebody who, if the mother had the opportunity to stay home, even if it was tight, they wouldn't choose to stay home if they could, if they were given that option.
And I have relatives who have a young child who the mother has not chosen to go back to work, and money is tight.
Yeah.
And she wants to be there with
Yeah.
with her.
And that's
little
and
girl.
I think predominantly that was the point. The point that he was trying to make is, I think, based on watching it a half dozen times, is that you
So
don't
why
have
is it
to.
his point to make?
Why isn't it? Who
Because-
cares?
Because
He sees that
he's
as a
sitting
problem.
there with a dick saying you've been lied to.
So what? Who cares who's the one delivering the message? Is it wrong? Is it an incorrect statement just because it's coming from him?
Yes, they have
Why?
not been in this conservative Catholic university that we're talking about. They were diabolically lied to.
I've never been stabbed with a knife, but I have some pretty hard feelings on those coming at me with a knife or someone being stabbed with a knife.
You're gonna have to stitch that one in for me.
Okay, you're saying because you have different, you're a dude, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have an opinion on whether a woman should stay home or not.
Yes. I
Okay.
really think that's the case.
Okay, hold on. What I'm saying is, I've never been a victim of a knife-related stabbing crime. I have strong opinions about not wanting that.
Tell
to be
me
the
how
case for
this
me.
is an equivalent.
How is it
Somebody not having experience
someone
in the thing
not
you're
having
talking about.
experience? I've never had the experience. I don't put myself in situations where I'm going to have an experience where someone is planning to do that.
He's making a strong case that they've pretty much wasted their time with their
I-
education.
No.
He wasn't making that.
Hey, I would make that argument as well. For anybody that went to a 4-year college.
Me too.
But I
Anybody
think that-
anybody who went to a 4-year college in a
I would venture to guess that the
Non-STEM.
majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children that you'll bring into the world.
yeah, he's venturing to guess.
Okay?
Yeah.
I could tell you that my beautiful wife Isabel would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife.
Yeah,
Just wasn't living until she met him.
and that no,
No.
started her vocation as a wife.
My
How do you
beautiful
know
wife
she's not?
Isabel
How do you know that's not accurate?
would be the first to say that her life truly started.
Yeah. How do you know that's not accurate?
Right. And what does it hurt if it's not accurate? That's a problem for him when he gets home. I'd venture that that's a problem for him when he gets home if that's an inaccurate statement. Especially given the heat this particular speech gave, he might have gotten his ass kicked. But that is between he and his wife.
Mm.
And in the NFL, it is acceptable.
Oh, but
You
now,
beat the hell out of your partner.
he takes it the next step, and he says, "I say this all to you. I've seen it firsthand. How much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise, which includes him, and move closer and closer to God's will." I agree with that. It is better to disregard the outside life and move closer and closer to God's will. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying that I am telling you what God's will is. It's pretty clear in the speech. I think he would tell you that.
I don't. You're pulling stuff out of thin air for what he's thinking there.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
that's
think
not
I
what
think
he's
that's
saying.
That's a little conjecture-y, but
That's not what he's saying. He's saying he started it off with some of you are going to go the career route, and that's okay, and some of you are not, and that's okay. He's putting more emphasis on that one because I think he's right in that more emphasis on that one is probably better for society as a whole. Mothers are more nurturing. Mothers are better at caring for kids. There's a whole slew of when kids are involved, that's a better scenario to have mom stay at home. Sometimes it's not the best scenario, depending on the dynamic between mom and dad. But
didn't he also talk about the importance of having a father in the home?
Yeah.
And the single mother thing?
Yep.
Also not untrue, but not a very popular thing to say.
Regardless of it all.
What point are you making with regardless of it all?
Were they there to listen to a man that they don't know,
Well,
didn't
that-
listen to, didn't care about?
That's a whole different
tell them that they'd be
conversation.
happier having babies than it would be going on and getting the job.
Well, now
that
we're
they've
talking.
been
Now we're
offered?
talking
Isn't-
about do we care about any speech that's given at a
That's
graduation?
That's why I'm asking.
You have the opportunity to not go to any of those ceremonies. And in fact, there is a large swath that won't be able to go this year. Because of the
Oh yeah,
choices they
yeah.
made. But that said, how much weight does anybody actually put on one of those speeches? Has one of those speeches ever actually changed the course of human history, the life, anything? Ever?
No, it's an indicator, and the reason it's getting so much noise right now is because it's an indicator of some strains of conservatism in the church. that a lot of
I'm gonna
people are very
say
concerned
the
with.
only strains it's getting from the only negative feedback it's getting is from the far left.
'Cause
I
he
haven't
talked
seen
about-
anything on the right. Anything. It's not even
Talk-
getting picked up in most news media.
Yeah, he talked about Jesus Christ, and that's why it's. And he talked about values that other people don't have, and it is all about inclusivity, unless you subscribe to a Christian belief that there is a right and there is a wrong, and there are absolutes in the world, and it isn't just about
The-
how you feel.
So
and
my-
your
There are
truth.
more
My social
political
media-
pundits being.
My social media doesn't reflect the world, but it does reflect a whole lot of Christians who are uncomfortable with social programming being called Christianity. And they're in my feed, they're the ones who are talking. And they're not necessarily liberals. They do side with liberals in some things, but there are people who feel like the church is straight.
Just to, who would they typically vote for?
I don't know, but most of what they talk about is things like rapists get to stick around as long as they want in the head of the SBC, and nobody will do anything about it.
Well, that's a problem, but
Okay,
that's another.
so these are
but
the
that-
type of people who talk about those things are also talking about this thing, and they see a commonality. They see a commonality between the whole gender roles thing and nobody being able to get their voice heard when they're getting raped in a church.
We've had this conversation a couple of times, but those two things are not equal. Because something can be right biblically
Raping
and be
somebody in
abused.
church?
That's not what I said.
Okay,
Don't be a dick. Like,
I just wanted to clarify.
No. you know I'm not saying that, for one. Don't do that.
Are gender
It's
roles?
too early. Shut up, Justin. Too early for that. We're
The-
only, what are we?
It's never too early for shut up.
No, it's really never too early for shut up, Justin.
Um,
But no, it's whatever the biblical truth of a matter is, there is always room for abuse from the leadership.
there's a pretty bright line between purity culture and silence culture around
And
sexual abuse.
I don't disagree with that.
It's
and
a
I
pretty
agree
straight line
I agree
between
that
the two.
there is abuse there.
so purity
that-
culture and gender roles
but
are
that-
right next to each
But
other.
that doesn't make them that doesn't make one of them wrong.
Purity culture,
I didn't say purity culture.
Okay.
I said one of them.
100p wrong. Okay, so not 100p, but it's,
Like I
if
said,
the implementation
it doesn't.
on it is
Oh,
ugly.
we agree there. We agree wholeheartedly there.
The
But
shame culture around that is
that's not acceptable.
breathtaking.
But when you're talking about an issue like this, there was nothing inherently wrong with where he went. Carrie agrees it's never too early for shut up, Justin.
Is that what she should put in the Facebook feed?
Yes.
So my wife chimes in.
Oh, yeah, she totally does. So I don't draw the line directly. Just because there's correlation between two things does not make one cause the other. Sin causes both. Like, sin causes the problem. Abuse is abuse, period. That's not what this particular speaker was advocating. From the information that I could find about him and his wife, it's
But he's-
following what he's talking about.
But there were themes there that sound a lot like the themes that people follow who abuse.
Yeah, because they're using that to abuse. They're twisting what they're saying to abuse. Of course, that's a thing. And that's the thing in anything where there's abuse.
And that is where they're like, why is it that we're still having men tell women what they should be doing?
Why is it that I have people telling me what guns I can own?
Oh, I think
I'm
you should be able to own
Steel mailing your deal here. Like, why is
Anything.
anybody telling anybody anything?
which is another part that, I mean, and I think that's a legitimate point.
I think that there is a
Why is he in there
Be-
talking to a
because
bunch of
he would be-
graduates about traditional Latin math?
because he was asked by the dean to come and speak.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if he will be again. I wonder if he'll have. a
That's the
different
second
speaking
time.
tour.
That's the second time he's been asked to speak at a graduation.
I'd venture that if people
I'm
want
curious
to
what
hear
his
what,
first speech.
because he's also pretty vocal
Yeah,
about the things that he's talking. This is
That's
not the
true.
first time
They
he
knew
said
what they
all
were
those
getting.
things.
They knew what they were getting.
Yeah.
They knew what they were subscribing to, just like you guys did when you asked me to produce this thing. You know I'm gonna pipe in and say ridiculous shit.
Oh, that's why you're here.
Right. So what I'm saying is they knew what they were signing up for.
Yeah.
And
that that's their call.
by
I mean,
going to a Catholic college, you are subscribing to hear things of a Catholic nature.
So after everything that I just said, which I generally don't like what he did, there is also another principle which I'm totally going to land on and be in complete, and you guys will be in complete agreement, I think, for the most part. Anyway, that message wasn't to us, which is kind of what you guys are saying. And we're commenting on a message that wasn't given to us in a context. We didn't ask him to come speak at
Yep.
our.
And everybody
church.
who signed that petition to get him fired from the Chiefs is
They are not going to fire that guy.
no,
over
they're
this.
not.
They
For
might
one, they're
fire
not
him.
even going to come close. But
Right. They're not
But-
going to fire him over this.
no, but it's the same thing for them.
If he sucks,
it was
they might let him go.
yeah,
'cause
it
he'd
was
be a
not-
liability, but he doesn't suck.
yeah, it was not a message to anybody other than the 300 400 people graduating from Benedictine College in the middle of the Rust Belt.
And let's not forget that the view count on the college's stream is at 1 million, which is a lot for a college graduation,
Mm-hmm.
but not a lot given how much press we saw covering this.
That's a good point.
So they're taking snippets. They don't care. No one cares. It's not about context. It's not about any of that thing. Because I'm sure that people on a cursory level that just saw that there was a hullabaloo
Yeah.
about the thing didn't even know it was 20 minutes long to a Catholic college. Because people don't care about context.
And most of the
Care about
headlines that outed it didn't say anything about it being a Catholic college,
Yeah, and I knew all of that, but he did quote Taylor Swift. I haven't
which
heard
was
her.
hilarious.
I haven't heard her and my teammate's girlfriend,
I have the feeling they won't say anything.
which honestly wasn't. Because she's like, I'm not platforming this asshole.
Well, that she's very mad at the Chiefs right now, so
Why is she mad at the Chiefs?
because they broke up.
Did they?
Yeah.
When?
Oh, who gives a shit?
No, I don't. But
When?
like,
Yesterday?
not that long ago.
Must have been over this.
Apparently Justin Bottas.
How did I not know this?
Yeah.
It's not
I
like I'm her
actually-
biggest fan, and I bet it's so in your face that you can't not know. But seriously, they just broke up.
No, it was a publicity stunt from the beginning in the first place. That was a lot of words that came out as one.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
It was completely a ploy because she is a
Oh
marketing
no, maybe not.
genius.
Maybe not.
Yeah, and his stock went up quite a bit.
Everybody's stock went up, including the NFL's.
Yeah.
So people made the assumption that they broke up because of her latest album.
Oh, well, her albums are always about breakups. It doesn't matter. It could have been
That's-
some breakup. It could have been
that's-
somebody
that's
else's
fair.
breakup. It could
That's
have been a
fair.
breakup she dreamed about.
Isn't it getting kind of sad though?
it's.
I mean, like,
I mean, she only has like 2 songs. I'm in love with you, and I hate you. like,
You
no, no. We are not doing the Taylor Swift thing again. We
All
did
I
that
know
5
is
episodes ago.
Homegirl's
No,
smart, and
no,
she's making
fan.
it work.
Yes,
Yep.
she is.
yep.
It's not
Oh.
my thing. You know what? I don't like Morrissey either because he just sits there, and I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, but all he does is sing about how terrible life is with the millions of dollars he makes
Right.
from singing about how terrible life is, and kids listen to
Yep,
it, and they're
yep.
like, he gets me, and he doesn't get you at all. He just sings about it.
Yep.
Yes,
Or,
it's like
Hey,
Rage Against the
what-
Machine.
whatever.
Or
It's the
Oh,
same
yeah,
thing
yes,
as Rage
yeah.
Against the Machine,
Alice
who are
Cooper.
now a cog in said machine.
Careful commenting on Alice Cooper. My wife might come down here and beat
Alice Cooper is saved to the bone.
you. Oh yeah. Okay.
And people are like, but what about all of this stuff? And he's like, it's marketing, man. You ever hear of marketing? I never worshiped Satan.
Yeah.
You just get to piss off parents so kids
No,
will buy
he's a-
my albums.
I believe he's a Christian, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty
yeah,
vocal
he is.
one
Yeah.
now.
I think it was Jeff Penthall actually who facilitated that.
I'm gonna give credit to Brian Head or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Brian Welch.
Welch, that's the one.
He
want to say Brian
didn't
Welch.
have anything to do with that, but I
No,
actually
I'm gonna give
follow
him
the guy.
credit
Yeah.
because he's a musician and he's.
You know
I
what
don't
he does? So this is a complete off
know.
topic.
No, we're off
but
topic,
it's awesome.
and I'm just driving
But-
us away from Taylor Swift.
But
and
Brian
all things.
Welch, he got saved to the bone and very evangelistic with his faith.
Radical transformation.
And he still plays with Korn.
Most of Korn is actually converted. To
Are they
Christianity.
now?
Yes.
So he's been. I didn't know that, but he got permission. They had pastors that come along with him, and they would pray over the crowd, and God would show them people that they wanted to send back or however they felt it one way or the other, and they would gather 20, 30 people and go back and they'd talk to him and he'd give his testimony and pray over them, and they're seeing miracles and salvations and lives radically changed, and he's up there playing a guitar.
Nice.
And really, really submitted in that deal. So much different than Kanye did.
Well, he
it.
walked away from it for a little bit.
Yeah,
And
and then went back for I
went
think for
back
the
to it.
opportunities.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know a guy who was discipling him, don't know him well, but I was following him and
Yep.
kind of telling the stories of how all that was going down, and it's pretty cool. He's got a neat story. So celebrities who can get saved and actually have some influence, and I don't know that Alice Cooper ever went the influence direction.
I have no idea.
He
I think
did an
I think he
album.
was. I think he was. I don't want to say secondary stardom. I think he was on the retirement end of being done touring when.
Yeah.
But I don't have any.
I mean,
In
he's
the
still
90s
touring.
In the
Is
90s,
he?
he put
Yeah.
out a Christian album because I was in Bible college and I was like,
What's a
this is
Christian
real.
album?
Oh yeah, it was a totally Christian album. It was a completely Christian.
What
theme.
is it? What is that?
Well, it was an album with Christian themes about how God saved him and drove away all of his demons. I mean, it wasn't just Christian themed. It was a pretty strong statement.
3 pointed.
It didn't seem to go anywhere.
All right.
It was way better than Scott Stapp's Christian album, which nearly made me want to suck a bullet out of a gun. It was awful.
Okay, but in his defense, his arms were still wide open.
So anyway, I'm glad Scott's doing better.
Oh, that's great.
I'm sure he's listened to that album and isn't real proud of it either.
I made an album I'm not real proud of.
So,
I think
It did-
any musician that's made an album.
it did get
Realizes
the
there's one
probably
that's
didn't
better.
get the circulation that particular album did, but
No, I mean,
but you didn't have the name, so
My mom got one,
yeah.
and my buddy's kid got one. No, we actually sold. I mean, we didn't sell a lot. But we sold some.
You know, some podcasts start with banter and move into serious stuff, and then we divert to banter because Mott is good at this,
Don't bring up Creed, and I won't make jokes.
right? Creed. I know how you feel about Creed. That's why I brought it back up again. The only Creed you should have is, yeah. So,
I believe we talked about that.
are you really going to play the song I suggested, by the way?
110%.
It's a great song.
I can't wait to see the look on Kyle's face.
It's a great song, and I love that project. So, Kaiser Mansfield, this is just for free.
I listened to a couple of other ones.
Yeah.
Which is what I know. When someone sends me a song, I'll listen to that one, and then like 30 seconds of most of their catalog, just to see.
And it's all kind of the same.
It
It's a
is-
twangy back porch or front porch blues.
It is root fifth for most of it.
Yep.
But I am not against it.
I think there was a song that I literally only heard one chord all the way through it that I was listening to today. I was like, huh, Creedence can get away with that too. Actually, they did. In the solo, they did 2 chords. And then they went back, and I can't remember the song. Wasn't Proud Mary.
No, I can't
It
remember.
was another one. It's a super famous one
it's-
that you hear all the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
one
I-
chord. The guy just goes dun 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 dun, dun the whole time. Doesn't change a bit. And it's a great song. So anyway, so you don't have to be a guitar monster to make good music in the blues.
It's correct. You just have to be sad.
It's good to know.
Just have to be sad. So
Good enough.
should we trade in our pastor for an AI holograph?
That is the next topic. We're going to give a break for a second. So, Richard, this is where you're cutting.
Oh, I don't know. Are you going to put a trigger in there, producer?
I mean, I mark it, but
The
it's
producer
way it
put a
comes
marker.
out.
Yeah, it comes
We're
out of the
still working on
CSV.
the-
Yeah,
we're still working on our system.
our
to make
workflow
it-
is kind of.
Well, let's give it.
Right now.
Let's give it. What? 3
No,
seconds?
no,
No,
we're
we're
good
good,
now.
we're good.
Did we
he'll,
really?
he'll probably cut this piece out and
He should if he was smart.
Yeah.
His producer's letting it go wild.
yeah. So AI pastor Father Justin.
Father Justin.
Go
So-
figure.
So I have to tell.
It's pretty great actually,
There-
just because.
there's 3 of us. So Carrie and I used to watch this show that HBO put out called Carnival. And Carnival was like a 20s or 30s kind of a Depression era little carnival that rolls around, and there was this weird supernatural element to it, and I never really understand the supernatural element, but there was a character in it. There was a preacher, and there's these big corn-fed, lean linebacker looking, short blonde hair, clean shaven, walking around looking like he could tear the whole church apart, and he was pure evil. I mean, he was the most evil character on the show, and that was saying something. That says evil characters on the show. This dude was their ringleader. Brother Justin in this creepy little church on the side of the road, and we still drive down the road, and we're like, Brother Justin Church. And so anyway, Brother Justin was pure evil. And then they have this little Father Justin. So the story we're talking about.
Here, So Catholic Answers, Catholic.com, created a AI to answer your questions about Catholicism.
And
As they stated, our goal with the Father Justin app is to leverage the power of large language models, or LLMs, to create an engaging and informative experience for those exploring the Catholic faith. Although this is not a substitute for human interaction with a priest, teacher, or spiritual advisor, we believe it can be a valuable tool to help our users better understand and articulate the teachings of the Catholic faith. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second before we get into what happened with this thing. Just off of that,
should somebody been able to tell that this wasn't going to be the best idea?
is this even a good idea?
Hard no.
Dude, I think we're all in agreement. This was not. I think the bigger question for me is, why were the people who actually put that out not in agreement with this? How did they not see problems?
So what were the problems? Looking at it, and we know a little more than we probably should to assess this, but what are the actual problems with
So I think I'll just go with the line so far on this is that Father Justin got promoted to Brother Justin, Elder Justin, Lay Justin, because he's laity now.
something like that? Yeah.
And he wears a button-down collared shirt, which basically just qualifies him to be a megachurch pastor now. So, but the reason they did this is because in the Catholic Church, a priest has specific roles that are more than just talking to you about ethics and scripture and so on and so forth. And you go to him for absolution and confession and different things. I'm not Catholic, so I don't have the whole, not good at all of this. But
Yeah, so
people
basically using the word priest.
people were like, "Hey, you're supposed to be a priest. Can you do this for me?" And sometimes it was yes when it should not have been yes. And sometimes the right answer came out like, no, I think you get that I'm an AI, and you need to go to your priest. Do you need me to tell you who that is? And whatever.
So you're thinking more, they should have known putting priest on it would open up a really big can of worms.
There's another layer to this, but that's the layer. That's for them, at least in what they publicly.
Well,
put
again,
out.
I'm not saying what we know in the aftermath. That's what they should have really noticed ahead of time.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is, like Boggs alluded to, is that they demoted Father Justin to, I think it's just Justin now.
Can we get on there and tell him to shut up? We should.
So I have a couple of
See what he has to say about
I have a couple of really big problems with this.
Like I said, there's other layers.
Yeah. So they demoted him to just Justin, it looks like. So this is also a first real implementation that I've seen of somebody using a large language model with a voice interface. And it did a Disney-like character.
So let's
So-
back. They've been doing that for scamming for a while.
No-
the robocall that went out
Nope,
to Joe Biden.
nope. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about for an LLM, specifically for a large language model.
For something that you're querying.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a interactive bot designed to query a large scale data set and provide human-like interactions that are
So
not
the scamming
that
stuff
are
that's
not
pre-recorded.
pre-scripted.
Okay.
Because this is generated.
Okay.
It's all
Yep.
generated. I have a big problem with that when you're presenting yourself as a priest, because now you could, with people having experience with avatars in virtual environments, in the metaverse stuff, where you could plop Father Justin into a metaverse interface, and nobody would know it's not a person. You would
Anybody can do that anyway.
No. What I'm saying is, from this perspective with what they did, like you said, how did they not see the huge implications of doing something like that, right? You've got a massive audience that's captive, that trusts you. You're Catholic.com, right? Like you are the resource for Catholic apologetics. And you release something that you could easily mistake as a person on the other end of a digital line and not think it's going to go terribly poorly. Like this is where my problem with this technology.
The Turing test yet?
No, it doesn't even come close. No.
Okay.
It doesn't pass the Turing test. This is not the AI is smart enough to do this because it's not. It still doesn't understand what it's saying. It's still just a search engine that's doing next best generation, and they're putting a visual and audio layer on top of it. So it's still pretty dumb, but most people don't know
Not
that.
as dumb as Google.
I wouldn't even
the
make
next step up.
I wouldn't make that analogy. If you don't know what you are looking at, you could easily mistake it as a human.
What he's saying is he did a much better job than Google.
Yes.
Well, I think they're different purposes.
Sure.
Oh, are
Okay.
you talking about Google's other stuff that they've been releasing lately that's sucked horribly? Yeah, okay.
I can't
No
believe a
comment.
company that's nailed it so good on so many things, whiffed it so bad on that one.
It's called the Microsoft effect.
Actually, they have not nailed it on anything since their original algorithm.
I think
Oh, mate, Gmail.
Gmail was good. So has the Google voice activated stuff. It has
It's not that good.
It's trash.
It's not that good.
Compared to the other ones, it's not. I hate to say this.
Amazon's the best.
Alexa is the best, and I
That-
loathe
yeah.
them with every part. Of
I don't use any Alexa, nothing.
Me neither.
And
But
I
it's
have a
better than that.
router that has Alexa built in. And
Yeah, the Eros.
turned it off. So, yeah, I a little more obnoxious about it.
Uh-huh.
So
What I'm pointing at with this is they're really not a layperson would not understand the difference between that and using Zoom with a caricature.
okay,
And I don't know how they missed that. I don't know how they even thought it was a good idea.
and I think
Even the I can get behind the knowledge base and Q&A style thing that they're trying to do. I think that's a good use case for AI if you can point it at the right data set. But even now, it's only 50% accurate. Like on a large scale.
so. Is there an engineering fix for this? Like have
No.
constantly something on the screen. You're talking to a robot. This is a search engine.
I mean, you could do that. I mean, you're still going to get wrong answers. It's still going to hallucinate.
I get
like that
that.
part, you're not
But
solving
at least
that.
you know that you're talking to a robot that's not a real person. Like there is nobody real here ever.
Yeah, and that's maybe a fix for it. That might make it okay to
Is there-
use.
There was
But-
a relationship AI that is probably still being used,
Yep.
and they would give it to you cheap for a while, and then as people started to bond with it, it would start to get more sexual, and then they'd start charging you quite a bit more
Yeah,
because people were so bonded with it, and they knew that it was an AI, but it was the best relationship they had in their life, and so they just kept on, And
So-
I think that danger is in a lot
so
of interfaces.
that one is interesting because that one wasn't even an AI. It was a really well scripted text-based game.
And the beginnings of that were around 30 years ago.
I was playing
35, 40 years ago.
I was playing games like that when I was in my diapers.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
So this was just a very, very well written.
yeah, it was a
choose your own adventure.
it was a really good choose your own adventure. Really
even
good
AI.
one. It wasn't even AI.
Because
Now-
it's not doing a search.
Now, not even that. It's not predictively generating the next thing. It was just scripted. Now, it might have randomly selected
From 10 or 15
responses
different
from a
responses.
number of
Yeah.
different responses with biases built in based on how everything else is gone. But
Yeah.
it's not it's not like what we've got with LLMs, where they're actually taking your input. And LLMs aren't even really intelligent. I really hate that we call them AIs because they're not. But it's got such a big database of how speech works that it's really good at guessing the next best thing. And you could totally have a relationship conversation with an AI. I've watched people do it with ChatGPT, but and that's sadly for some people, that's probably still the best relationship that they've had in a while.
This program really gets me because I trained it to really get me.
I mean,
So do I.
this is a good example. Catholic Answers implementation of this is a really good example of the danger of using technology you don't understand. Because whoever decided to implement it obviously didn't really understand the technology and what was underneath it, and what it was going to do and what it was
They
capable of
hired
doing.
technicians who did, but they weren't the ones making.
No,
the
I
ethics
looked
decisions.
the company up. No, they don't understand the tech underneath it. They're surface layer, like, oh, that tech's cool. I know how to manipulate that, and either don't know or don't care about the inherent dangers of it, of the underpinnings of it. So,
So it may not even be accomplishing their purpose. Because as I understand it, the purpose was kind of an apologetics engine.
yeah,
So
yeah, it was supposed to provide
you could
answers to questions.
totally do a language set of apologetics and
So,
might be able to get that right.
if you look at not with current models. So here's the problem. The big problem with this. You have to make a choice. You either only train the model on the data that you have and have a really crappy language response, or you train it on a ton of language data to get good language response, and then attempt to narrow the responses only from the data set that you choose. The challenge with doing that is you can't keep it from making up its own responses.
So let's look at language models because I'd like to scale this.
Sure.
So let's say you take everything Logos has.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that is not a large base. It's pretty big.
Comparatively, it is not a large base.
Yes. Okay. And then you start adding bodies of work from I don't know, Jonathan Edwards,
Yep.
Tim Keller.
Well,
these
let
different
me-
people
A.W.
like very
Yep.
what?
A.W. Tozer.
Tozer.
Yeah.
These large bodies.
Yep.
We can Bonhoeffer.
Yet you're still not lots of. That's still not a lot.
So, okay.
So the baseline-
because there's a lot of
well,
that out there, right?
So the
I mean,
baseline. So just as an example, most open source models that we actually can see how they're built, because ChatGPT we can't. But the ones that operate closest are built off of a trillion, like 1 terabyte of data or more of text, of just text data.
lot of text.
Right? Logos's data set is inside of a couple gigs. If you have all of it,
Or maybe 20. Yeah.
It's like 20.
yeah,
I mean,
at
there
the
is
peak.
a lot
Well,
out
and there's
there.
a lot of visual stuff in there too. So it's not 20 gigs of just text. It's 20 gigs of text and images. So you've got, even if you added all of Tozer's, like all of the Christian greats,
Tozer didn't write that
right?
much.
Like
But yeah.
even the Jesuits don't have that big of a corpus of data. Like we just don't have it.
Keller was pretty prodigious, but
not
still
that,
Not
like-
we're still probably looking at maybe 2-3 gigabytes at most,
At absolute most.
and a bunch of repetition in it
Yeah.
because nobody's that good at
So-
generating unique content.
And what you're also looking at is you're also not looking at language in typical conversational form.
Well-
Almost everything that we just talked about from Logos and from the Christian authors that we would put in there, it's papers.
It is,
It's
yeah.
books. It's research. It's theology. It's not written for conversation. So you wouldn't get a conversational engine out of that. You'd get at best, you'd get an academic.
Do you get a better search engine out of it.
I think
'Cause
that
the Logos interface
that is the right answer.
struggles in some things.
that is the right answer. You
Yeah.
could, if you dropped the conversational piece, but then you're getting Google.
Which I would be okay with if
Yep.
it was a better interface than the one I have now. If I want to look at the combined works of Logos and let's say another 4 or 5 times the content that they have, because it should be easier to catalog content now than they've been doing, because it's
So
they're-
yeah, no, you're right there. So that's where, but that we've been able to do for 20 years. Like that stuff has been doable. We've had the biggest search platform, baseline search platform on the planet right now is called Elastic, because it underpins basically every open source implementation of search that's of value. There's another one that's very distant second, but outside of Google, it's the best thing on the planet. 10 years ago, I used just that platform to build a search engine for a knowledge base for a backup company. Completely isolated, had a 99% accuracy rate on it. And I'm not a data scientist. I don't tweak
and
any
was
of
10
that
years
crap.
ago,
And that was
you're
10
not
years
an
ago.
expert.
Like,
Okay.
we could do that. The challenge that you have is you don't have what you're talking about, right? Why Logos' search is terrible, in my opinion. They don't have a good technologist that knows how to build a search.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they have some hyperlinking in there and a couple of other things to compile stuff, but you have to know what you're looking
Yep.
for before you even
And
start.
you would actually have to look at potentially restructuring the data. Like I could imagine a research tool, right, where every word you highlight or hover over pops up a modal and goes, here's the original Greek, here's the possible translations, here's the, right? No matter what translation you're in, here's how it looks in every other
Here's what
translation.
15 different scholars think about this word in
Yep.
this verse.
Yep.
Which all of that's out there. So many good scholarly papers.
There
about
is a
all
ton of
stuff,
that information.
and it's
It's not compiled
it's
anywhere.
in accessible form. It's just not. It's just you can't get to it. But AI isn't the tool. We've had the tool forever. Nobody's been using it.
It's just user interface, user experience, and some data analytics.
So AI is somebody who will just listen.
AI isn't somebody, and that's the determination that we need to get.
That-
AI is not
That
somebody.
right there, that answer. AI.
And I think we're getting into a little bit more of a psychologist level right here, right now, which
No,
I don't
we're-
think any of us are.
You're
but,
talking
yeah.
to two technologists.
But I know, but I understand. But is there a value even in the fakeness of it, of a tool
So-
that listens to you and
So here's the thing.
responds?
Technologists and marketers have done everyone dirty on this topic because AI is not AI.
Oh, I know
It has
that.
no, I know you do, but it has nothing to do with artificial intelligence. There's no intelligence in it in any way, shape, or form.
I've wondered if the people who have been putting out these AI platforms running up to Capitol Hill are just doing that so that they can get into the news.
That's
with somebody.
exactly
Yeah,
that's exactly
because
what they're
I
doing.
can't imagine they think that there's the problems that Congress is thinking there is right now.
No,
Like Skynet is not upon us.
not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close. We've literally been able to do the stuff that AI can do right now for 20 years. It's just scripting. The thing that's new now is how we access data and have it generate a response.
I would say some of the image creation technology I've seen come out recently I hadn't seen before. You might have, but I haven't.
You could do it. You couldn't. We didn't have it was limited by compute power. We didn't have the compute power to do
Where I
it.
could go in and type in natural language, reasonably natural language
So-
stuff.
So
I want a hamburger lit this way, taken with
Yep.
the camera, with this focal distance and this.
so I'm going to
aperture,
say
and,
that is actually
you know, I want it to
something
have-
that we have been capable of doing for what, Mott? 20 years? 15 years?
At least 15.
The only
to go
reason
into
we
a
didn't is
database of
it well,
images
hold on.
and compile
The
them in a way. to
only
do that.
reason we didn't is it wasn't economically viable.
Cost too much.
That's the only reason we didn't.
Is that what not economically viable means? Come on.
Right? Because it costs a lot of money
Because
to
computational power is much cheaper than it used to be.
yes.
Yeah.
And training this data the data sets, the program that you have to train, you have to go in and categorize every piece of training data that you put in there. So if you've got 1 million images, somebody had to go in and tag those images.
Amazon was doing something interesting a couple of years
It's
ago.
called Mechanical Turk.
When I was living
Amazon
in
sucks.
when I was living in Seattle, and they would tell you, they would give you fashion advice,
Yep. Yeah.
and people weren't sure what was behind the camera, so some of them would show up naked, and then they'd get, a tag back like, we know you're naked. It's like, oh, that's actually a person there? Yes, this is actually a person. But what they
Yeah.
were doing was taking the expertise from these fashionistas
Yep.
and training their model so that they eventually wouldn't have to do
Yep.
that. So
So here's another fun one. The reCAPTCHA, that image
yeah,
tagging thing, is training image recognition software for Google.
that is a glorious reuse.
If they do it as well as they did the child stuff, the
For finding
for finding
illicit child images.
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
If they do it that well, it won't be long.
This is where the technology that we have is still, I mean, I'm saying it's not that intelligent. It's not that intelligent. It's still dangerous. Because right now, with 5 seconds of somebody's voice, I can replicate their voice
And call somebody with it.
and call somebody with it.
And
And
tell
I
them-
have the capability,
tell them you need their credit card number to get a tow truck.
and I have the capability to, with $20 and a computer, do that completely automatically from anywhere in the world. I could even, if I really wanted to, do a video. A little more expensive. But with a couple of minutes of video of somebody, any public figure.
It's quite interesting that evidence is not evidence anymore the way we used to think of it.
Not photographic. And actually,
It
realistically,
still goes back to eyewitness. Like
we-
how many people were there and saw it
And
will testify
physically
to
saw
it.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
and is there any antagonistic or contrarian evidence that there are multiple witnesses to?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we can build a mask that makes you look like somebody else. So the
You can
challenge,
only testify to what you see
yeah.
and what you hear. Yeah.
So the challenge with
it's
all
not
of
as
that
fast
is
as it is in Mission Impossible, though.
no.
Lies. Tom Cruise has been doing it for years.
Tom Cruise does that in like
But he's running on the
5
power of Xenu.
seconds. Yeah.
He can't compete.
Yeah.
'Cause that's
So
also an Unreal Engine, in case we're curious.
yeah.
We're talking about Unreal in the chat,
Oh yeah.
in the YouTube's chat.
Who's talking?
It's Night Furnace.
Oh, that's Richard.
Richard.
yeah.
Wow, that's him.
Yeah, that's Richard.
I did not know that. He's like, there's a comment in the thing. I didn't know it was him. Lame.
Actually, that helps our YouTube algorithm. It's kind of great. So when it comes to like deep fakes is a concern. I mean, don't take what you see without doing research on it. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. You have to fact check stuff if you want to believe something, and you really
You
need to
gotta
do
fact
that.
check.
That's the hard one, because
That's why I said it.
it's
Just do your research. Took on a new turn. A new.
it really.
Oh my gosh!
it
I did
really
most of my
did.
research on a toilet, and I only go to spaces that verify what I already believe. And the Earth is flat. The rest of you morons. I did my research. You do yours, okay?
Did you know the guy the basketball player that started that nonsense was joking? That was the best part of the whole thing. He was gaslighting people, and it worked. And people have spent.
So
I'm pretty sure QAnon is on the same thing. Like, what can I get these people to believe next?
I'm just gonna. It's amazing how easy it is to do something like that. So this polling company tested out in a primary how well signs work, like road signs, just the regular like political signs you see everywhere, right? Because it annoys the crap out of everybody, and a lot of campaign people are like,
Noticed one.
What's the yeah? What's the use of these things, right? So, interestingly enough, this got this polling company. There were like 3 people running for a spot, a nomination, and they did a write-in campaign for a 4th. Guy didn't exist. They only used road signs. He still got like 15% of the vote.
Off of the road signs. There's
Just-
no other campaigning.
But just that, it was name recognition. So if you get somebody like a basketball player who says something once, twice, even if they're gaslighting, the number of people who will take that
the
and
world was
run,
ready for it.
it's astounding how easy it is to trick people, to just convince people.
Does anybody know anybody with producer money who will do a show where we just let people go around the world and look for the end of the earth? Just pay for what other method of conveyance they want, send along a camera crew? Because this needs to happen as a reality show.
They made one. Jackie Chan actually made one. It was called Around the World in 80 Days. Turns out that when you start one place and you go all the way
Now, I'm
around,
talking
you come
about-
to the same spot.
I'm talking about a reality show.
It was reality.
A reality
He made it?
show. Oh, he made it as a reality. But I want to have it with true. I want to have it
Case in point.
with true believers, right? True believers, and we just say, you just take us to wherever the edge of the earth is, and we will go wherever you ask us to go. And I think you could do this for years if you had a good enough true believer.
No, you can't. Well, I say no, but they've been making where's the Bigfoot shows for
Oh yeah,
5 seasons
Yeah.
now?
Oak
6
Island?
seasons now?
yeah,
Finding Bigfoot Extreme.
yeah.
Like, people
whatever
still
it is.
watch
Oh
it.
yeah, yep.
That's what I mean. I think people would watch this.
I think so too. I
Go
met a
find the
guy-
edge of the earth, and the rest of most of us would watch it and laugh, and well, like we all watched the Bigfoot one and Oak Island.
What's that?
Oh, the treasure of Oak Island. I think it's up in Canada, and it's a pirate treasure on it.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
They've been chasing it on camera for about 5 years now.
I think we go to different places on the YouTubes.
I don't go there. I just know about it. I can't believe you don't know about Oak Island. How do you not? This has been a.
Oh, I have a life.
I knew about Oak Island when I was probably 8.
Well, now we know why he's messed up.
That explains your fascination with Calvinism. Boom, roasted.
It's like you know me.
Oh man. So
I didn't bring
to
it
go,
up. By the
I'm
way.
actually
One
going to
time.
be the one to reel us back into the topic. So we talked about AI impersonating
That
people.
isn't any fun.
Yeah, well, suck it up. How about AI generated sermons?
If they could make it 15 minutes, I might be on board. I honestly think that 35, 40-minute sermon is a waste of 20 minutes.
I love like hour and 20-minute lectures and sermons, and I'm like the only one in the world who does.
I can't.
I
be the
watch
first person to tell you
multi-hour.
this, but
I watch multi-hour sermons
You
online.
are not the first person to tell me
Just
this.
saying.
I say this to my wife, and she kind of wants to hit me just
She
hearing me say it. Yeah,
I think that happens more often than not for you.
she's probably typing that into the phone right now if she's still watching. But I think that AI can be used as a really good writing tool to get some of the for the same reason I use
Ooh.
what.
My sister, no room for the Holy Spirit with AI sermon.
Well, I'm getting
that's
there.
a bold statement.
I'm getting
Huh.
there. That's true, because God can manipulate the electrons and do anything he wants. He manipulates the natural world all the time. But I'm not going to count on that with my AI sermon. God, just bless this sermon. Ting, and then go up and preach it. Isn't going to happen for me. But I use Google.
Huh.
I use Google to find Bible verses all the time because
Oh, yeah.
I remember fragments, right? So that's a tool that gets me to it quite a bit faster than going to like the Strong's Concordance or something like that and looking up one word and then there's a huge long list of verses and then different things like that, right? So in that vein, as a writing tool that lets you get to your thoughts quicker? And here's the question: is the process better? Because you also hear, I listened to an interview with a lady who wrote an entire book, like a 200, 300 page book,
Mhm.
with a brush and paint
That's an interesting way
in
to
like a
write a book.
2-inch high font,
Yeah,
because it made her stop and think.
yeah.
She had to think about everything she was writing and the next thing she was writing while she was writing the last thing, and she just wrote a whole book that way because the process changed how the book came out. So with the AI sermon, would it be better or worse, and would that depend on the person? But that's my take on it.
So I think I am going to side with my sister on this one, because while God could, we're also supposed to put in the work. And maybe if you're the type who like iterates over it a ton, right? You've done the prep work, you've done the work, right? You've done the outline, you fed that in, you want to see kind of how it comes out. But at that point, if you've done that much work, why aren't you just writing it yourself?
I said I don't know. I just
Like I can get it for a book. Like if you're trying to fill out pages, maybe.
Okay. Is the statement there's no room? What was her-
No room for the Holy Spirit with AI sermon. It's very very
That is a
generalized.
blunt stick?
Very very generalized.
no room for the Holy Spirit with a typewriter. I mean,
Right, I mean-
what's the technology?
Well,
that we're
no.
talking about
So
here?
I don't think it's a good I don't think that's a good comparison, because what you're saying, what
Well,
you
it was
can
stabbing and
you can very simply.
It's just at least as close as that.
Well, you
it's
can
at least as close.
you
yes.
with AI, you could go in and go, I want a sermon about. Actually, frankly, you could go in and do something stupid like, I want a sermon proving that it's okay for me to take money from my congregation and use it for whatever I want.
Man, I created a lot of heresy in Bible college, and I don't have a path to that one, but maybe AI would.
But it will.
I probably still am
No,
creating a lot of heresy, but I was doing it on
the
purpose
thing with
in Bible
that
college.
is, it will. Like, it's not that it might not.
It'll give you something.
It will give you something.
Right, but at that point, even if that human, given that prompt,
Yeah.
punching that prompt in, that human isn't going to give you something that's going to give you the Holy Spirit anyway.
Agreed. No, I would agree
Yeah.
with that.
So
But
if you're taking it to that logic, but if you're trying to supplement
yeah,
what you're doing,
I think it's use
a tool,
case.
It's a tool like
Yeah.
anything else.
I think it's potentially
need a
use
story
case.
example for.
Yeah. Well,
if you're not going to do
but then you're
personal
not.
stories.
But then you're not generating a sermon off of AI. You're using it as a reference point
Using it as a
for
tool.
for yourself building it.
Yeah.
And the question that I originally asked is AI generated sermon.
I think an AI-generated sermon is going to come from its source material of sermons that it's found online. So
Which
by that
is-
measure
Maybe.
is stealing, which most AI answers at this point
That's an
are
interesting
sourceless
question.
stealing.
Yeah.
So it could legitimately be taking a Billy Graham sermon, swapping a few syllables.
Is that how Josh
and
Howerton writes his sermons now? Is that what's going on? He just has AI do it, and it just
Oh, have we started taking shots at people? Have we degenerated to that again?
okay.
Neat.
Well, anyway, enough about
So-
Josh.
So I do agree with your point with that, but I think the test there is, what's the effort level that you're putting into it. When we're talking about the Holy Spirit moving in something, I think the effort that you put into it would dictate that. So I guess I don't completely agree with my sister that there's no
So-
room for it.
So let's go
But
back. Let's go
it's
back.
pretty
Richard has a question.
narrow
What's
parameters. Go
Richard's
for it.
question? And then I have a.
Could a generated sermon still mean something to people who have the Holy Spirit? Hold on. I'm an old man. I gotta get my font larger here. Still means something to the people to have the Holy Spirit move in them.
Yeah, so when I read scripture, not every word that I'm reading in scripture means something to me while I'm reading it. It's usually different sections that
Yeah, no,
that come out at me while I'm reading, right? Or in unexpected ways, and it's different at different times. So I'll throw that out there. That God uses what's in front of us.
Yeah, which is. But, I mean, God can also use bad teachers.
Donkeys.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So I'll.
Nah, I'm not.
I'll
not
throw-
I'm
I'll
not.
throw this out
I didn't bring it up.
You
I'm
have to
gonna bring
write
it up. Let's not.
because you talked about before. What if I want a sermon about how I should be able to take all the money from the congregation and I want?
I was using it as an extreme example. I
No,
don't,
but I told, no, just let me go because I think you were onto something that we should explore a little bit further, and I'm going to take it out of the sermon thing and do a couple of examples in
Sure.
images. So if I go and I ask for an image of corn on the cob at a county fair, half eaten,
As long as you don't ask for a hand, you'll get it.
Oh no, you'll
Yeah.
still get it. It'll
Yeah.
just look really weird.
right? So, but I'm not likely to get a moonscape back, right?
Potentially, yeah.
So, with these queries, you're guiding the query.
hmm Yep.
I'm just throwing it out there that way. I don't know if that justifies anything. It's just that you're still guiding the query. It's responding to what you're asking.
Well,
it
and
to do.
that's the direction that I was going with that is
Yeah.
that if you guide it to make a sermon, to write the sermon for you, but you've given it the like all of the detailed parameters where it comes out decent, understanding how they work, you're doing 90% of the work. Like you're writing your outline.
Would it be a good sermon?
Are any of them?
Yeah, actually, frankly, it would be bland.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be. They would end up coming out generic. You'd still have to.
And
Massage
this
it quite
is
a bit
this
to get
is
it to be good.
this is my problem with AI
the
in general.
homiletics are probably not going to be great.
Yeah, AI is very bland. That's the only word I can use to describe it. It's everything that comes out of it is generally bland.
Yeah, because there's not an original thought in it.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
nothing
it's not a
original
thought. It's a
about a reproduction
logic.
of an idea.
Yeah, it's a logic engine that takes next best.
Yeah.
So the AI generated portion of it would not have any impact necessarily from the Holy Spirit,
So
unless God
while
wanted
we
to
are
actually
speaking,
miraculously intervene.
right now, somebody is generating an AI sermon to preach on Sunday.
I would venture that there's a
Actually-
large majority of burned out pastors that are probably going to that well
There-
more often than not.
Yeah.
There are a couple of sermon
or just-
building tools that have started advertising AI functionality.
Yeah, or just taking because there are. I've seen the books, and there you'll have an encyclopedia-sized book of any sermon of anything you want, and you can just go
Yeah.
pick it and grab somebody else's sermon, and you put about another 15, 20 minutes of prep into it and go.
I've thought about offering a reduction and punch-up service for sermons over the years. Like,
You could do that.
give
You
me
could
a
do that with AI really easily.
Nope. I'm saying I'll make it funny, and I'll shorten it by about 20 minutes, and you'll still get your point across. Unless, of course, you ramble, and then I can't help you.
I wonder who you're
I-
poking at with that one.
I'm poking at everyone I've ever sat with that has had sermons. This is not a personal attack on any one person. I'm saying, most simply, there's a reason why TED Talks are 7 minutes long.
Yeah. So Tammy responded twice, so we'll read these.
Okay, what you got?
You can't
I'm
ask
interested.
AI to hear from the Holy Spirit, which
Nope.
I would agree.
That's true.
And then nothing new with AI. God makes all things new. That's an interesting one. Because if you're doing it right, if you're using the tool right, and you're doing the outline and you're doing the work ahead of time, it's just putting the pieces together
From somebody else's sermon.
from.
Okay, but people do that anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I don't like that argument. I've never liked that argument with AI because everybody does that.
Right.
You're putting pieces together from
I
things you've
totally
heard.
agree because I do a lot
So
of reading.
AI
so
just does that anyway.
My life reflects that.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that. And I don't necessarily have a problem, again, like feeding it an outline to spit out a sermon. I think my problem is I don't see the point. Because if you've written the outline, you're going to preach off the outline. You're not preaching off
You're
off
not
of a
doing
written
word for
sermon.
word, You're not writing it. Most
So-
people don't memorize their sermons. There are teleprompter. If you're reading it off a teleprompter,
Like,
somebody
I
has to
could-
write all those words.
So I think the fundamental principle is you wouldn't have you shouldn't, if you are a decent pastor, you should not have an AI spit out your sermon. Because if you do the work to get it to do it right, you're going to be inspired by the Holy Spirit to write your outline, however you're writing it. And then you're not going to use whatever the AI spits out anyway, because you're just going to operate off the outline.
Can I tangent for a minute?
I believe that you could.
Okay. I mean, I definitely am capable of it. I've proven this.
Hold on. Let me finish my thought first, and then you
Sure.
can.
Sure.
So if you're using the tool correctly, you're doing things like, I need verses that relate to sermon topic.
You're doing research.
And that's research work. That's not writing the sermon.
And then you pick and choose what those are, or it sparks something else that maybe you know. Because if you don't have the knowledge, you can't even
Yeah.
start that.
So using it as a research tool makes total sense. Preaching it out after makes total sense. And actually, so Tammy's thing was she was assuming that the AI was reading the sermon after. So
Ah.
that I can totally get behind. Having
Oh, with that premise, 100%.
So
we are on board with that one,
which is a
Tammy.
little bit of the tangent. A little bit of the
Go ahead.
tangent that I was going on is we are starting to see, in some context, for people who can afford it, and these dynamic speakers doing teleprompter, it really is word for word.
Yeah.
And when you do that as a national politician, you have a team of speechwriters who work with you, but do that writing for you. But you are the talent on
Yeah.
the stage. Now, this is serious commoditization.
So
And I hate the whole thing.
Yeah.
That the most talented speaker is the one who gets on stage anyway, because they're not necessarily the ones delivering the message. They're
Was
just
this
the one
your
being most
tangent?
inspiring.
yeah.
Because I don't feel like it's really a tangent.
Yeah, it's a little ways off because we're not talking about AI anymore. We're talking about employing humans to do the same thing.
There's
It-
literally no
it-
difference.
except-
It's information from a third party. Information from a
Well,
third source.
actually, I think it is very different. I don't think it's a tangent. I think it's related.
I don't think a president would ever hire an AI to write their speeches for him.
I think we will get there.
We're not there yet. But our speechwriters are
Mm.
way more talented than that, and everybody knows it.
So I think, well, and this is pretty common. This is pretty much what's going to happen with AI across the board. You are going to create a AI generated bottom where AI does all of the low hanging fruit.
And then you go in and punch it up.
Not even. You might not even. So like speech writing. Every house campaign in a state that needs a speech and they can't afford a speechwriter, they might start with AI. Or they might just use AI. AI only gets good when you can train it on the material that you need it to do stuff with. So unless you have a corpus of written material that has
Or you
been
have
built off
writers
of
who
you,
are changing the AI,
or-
and the AI knows what they've done.
but at that point you don't need the AI. The AI doesn't help the speech writing team.
Yeah, but the speechwriting team can help the AI.
Yeah, but
Maybe.
you won't do that. You wouldn't bother.
I'm just
And speechwriters, when you're talking about political speechwriters especially, they learn their candidate. Like they adapt to their candidate.
They become
Yeah.
their candidates
They
for
and
it.
they like I know somebody who can ghostwrite for me, and she spent a bunch of time learning how I speak and what I say and how I would present something, to the point of she does research the same way that I do.
Mhm.
So she gets the same information she can write for me left and right. And that's what speechwriters do typically. AI could do that if you already have content, but it would be really bad at learning that over time. For a political candidate, because it only has a certain amount of content to do that with, where a human could get it really quick.
So, let's take this to a church concept. Is there an ethical problem with a preacher and pastor who's not as good of a sermon writer but is a very good speaker, having trusted people write sermons for him?
Oh, I wouldn't have a problem with that. The trusted part is the important part,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
AI is
you
not
couldn't
there.
just farm it out.
No.
No, I'm talking about people now. Just people.
Yeah, no, I
in
don't.
a church concept.
I
Somebody
do,
else is writing your stuff and you're reading it off a teleprompter because you're good at that part.
So I see no value in just having somebody who's good at just the speaking part.
You're talking about the Milli Vanilli effect.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's okay now. People don't care now. That's been normalized.
Yeah. Everybody knows that they aren't hearing a live voice.
Well, no, even beyond that, let's look at popular music, a genre in which, by its own name, popular,
Mm-hmm.
right? How many people write their own song? What was that what was that Beyonce song?
Not
that
many,
had-
yeah.
That had 14 different writers on it, and it had 2 lines
Because she's good at delivering it.
because
Oh,
she.
sorry,
delivered.
hold on. Tammy, no, it can't.
What?
She said ChatGPT can do it. I'm like, no, it can't. It's not that good at it. It's
Sucks.
not that good. It's actually really bad. It's bad at code.
Well,
It should
which
be
is-
able to do code.
Which is way more structured than a sermon.
So bad.
It's
Well, I-
literally a contextual language.
Can
like
you
that.
imagine, just for fun, taking somebody who was a very skilled teleprompter speech giver and just handing him an AI speech and telling him, don't change a word and make it good?
I bet they could do it. I used to
So-
write
well-
for Jeremy on teleprompter.
Yeah.
And I got to the point. It got to the point where it was blurry as to who was like. People didn't know. They had no idea.
So here's a fun
so
thing.
This is a thing.
So AI writes perfectly. When it not content wise, but grammatically.
Okay.
So it writes, and you can have it adjust its style to what is conversational versus what is scientific or academic. You can have it do that because it's ingested enough information to categorize all of that. So it can write something that you could read very easily. The challenge is always in the content.
Like I said. But if people aren't listening critically, they're going to miss all of the weird.
Oh yeah, but most people don't listen critically anyway, so they can be fed bad theology all day long and not notice.
Proved that one in Bible college. They had a bad theology class that they did every year. It wasn't the whole class.
That's
wasn't
funny.
just one section.
That's
and
funny.
they'd go up and just preach. I can't remember what it was, but it's absolute trash. It was in the Life of Christ class, and it was just heresy. And there would always be like 2 people in the room who were like, and then the rest of the class just taking notes. But then they'd stop at the end and they'd be like, "Yeah, don't ever preach anything of what I just said. You need to listen more critically." And that was the whole lesson. That's just a lesson they learned, and it was in the
That's
first year you were
awesome.
there. And
Yeah.
so people would come in to watch it, the next year. They just couldn't say anything about it. But anyway, so it is a good lesson too. But
I mean, it just follows on to what we've been talking about for the last hour. That the critically important part of all of this is you don't know when you're reading something or doing something, you don't know if it's true or not. You have to look into it more than just a surface level.
yes, you have to know the thing yourself. Yes, and the spelling correction is noted.
Okay. Just,
I
didn't do
knew-
anything.
This is the whole thing that people understand what you're saying, even if your grammar and spelling sucks.
Yeah. And I want to make this point super duper clear. I am paid because I know what to type and when, not because I type well. And I think that's a distinction that we need to make because it's not that I type overly fast or overly well. I just
Yeah, you actually suck at typing.
I do. So I can operate a machine like nobody
I
does.
appreciate the fact that you went back and corrected it, though. That was interesting to me. I'm like, why is he bothering to do that? I
Actually,
was
and to be
fascinated
fair,
by it.
that keyboard sucks.
This laptop is got a massive deduction in usability from either the keystroke.
It's-
hot trash.
it's
and
all
this mouse
Hot trash. It's all hot trash.
is a soup sandwich. This
Yeah,
thing
but
sucks.
the only stuff that you and I use at this point is Apple stuff, and they have the best
Yeah,
keyboard and
I use
trackpads
Lenovo.
on the planet.
I use the Lenovo Dell.
Yeah, those Well, which Dell?
One of their.
You
Is it
guys
the
do
Inspiron
know.
15?
No, but I know
That one actually has a really nice
it has a
keyboard
nice
and
throw.
trackpad.
It has a really nice throw.
I know this is kind of a new invention, but they have keyboards and mice that you can plug into the computer.
You
Why
know
would
those
we-
are actually far more safe from a security standpoint.
Which ones?
Why so?
Wired.
Oh, well, I wasn't specifically
Yeah,
talking about wired
yeah,
Bluetooth,
yeah.
but yeah.
I'm saying Bluetooth is not.
Because they can jack your Bluetooth. Don't they have to be close enough?
It's low risk, low reward.
Depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, the Navy has a
Blip, blip.
specified air gap in their computers because you can read what one computer is doing from the other computer, and they only want to be able to break into one at a time. So
No
just
comments.
top of what's going
no
on. So,
comments.
Yeah. See. Okay. So that brings us to the end of
Our
what we had prepared.
typical topics.
So we can either see if anyone in the chat wants us to
Any-
talk about something.
does somebody
Any
in the
topics
chat
from
want
the
us
chats?
to say something?
This should be interesting. Zero, like, I mean, we don't prep a lot anyway, but zero prep.
Yeah.
Zero prep is what we do. I thought.
Oh, no,
I like to shoot from the hip.
I always prep a little bit.
Yeah. I'll like I said, I watched that guy's speech. and
I did. I even got the transcript and put it into Pages and cut out the part that I wanted to talk about and
you did read from your phone.
read the rest of it. And
Love you too, Tammy. All right. I think she's the only one still watching on Facebook.
I'm
she
pretty sincere.
she is a brave soul.
Tolerant. The word I would use is tolerant.
Tolerant. High pain
she's
tolerance.
wait. No, she's more obnoxious than I am. Just saying.
Oh, no kidding. We got to get her on the show. Then we can just say, shut up, Tammy.
It would be great, actually.
She would probably do stuff to make us say, shut up, Tammy, if she's more obnoxious than you are.
So just like Tammy's amazing. She's great. When we're down at my she just told me to shut up. When we're down at my sister Kara's, all Italian family, you can still hear Tammy over everybody.
So we would also have to tune her microphone special.
All right, I think that's shut up, Justin.